From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. And with me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, and his name is Sean. Sean, how the fuck are you doing tonight?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing.
You're amazing?
I'm amazing.
Well,
look at these legs. They're amazing.
I can't really argue that. What have you been up to this week? What's going on? What the hell? I haven't talked to you since I don't know when. How's it going?
I'm trying to think now when the last time we talked was. Probably last time we recorded. We texted. We sent some texts. We're close.
We do. We text.
We're close. Yes. So I watched a couple things. And I think that I would really like you to watch this, and I kept forgetting to send it to you, but I watched Electric Boogaloo, The Wild Untold Stories of Canon Films.
Okay.
Which kind of goes with all the Ninja November stuff we just talked about, because it's basically a documentary that kind of goes behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, but they kind of talk about the Golan Globus Canon film thing. So all these movies that we talked, well, not all these movies, but a lot of the movies we talked about for Ninja November were Canon films or Golan Globus productions. They talk about their history and all this stuff. It's a funny documentary. It's kind of cool to see all these crazy ideas that they came up with and how they put a lot of these movies together. They were really banking on Superman 4, I believe, The Quest for Peace. I think that's called The Quest for Peace. They're really banking on that being a big movie, and it was not. You talked last time, I think, catching up on a lot of Insomniac, Dave Attell, Insomniac. Yeah. I watched the shit out of some Insomniac. Like a lot.
I'm a bad influence, aren't I?
Well, I think I watched it a while ago and kind of came back to it. And it's nice because the quality that I'm watching it is like, Insomniac was on between 2001 and I think 2003, and it looks like it was recorded off a VHS, like someone ripped it from a VHS, so it looks nice and blocky and shitty, which is how I like to watch stuff like that. I found a commercial on there.
The old 4:3 ratio at its finest.
Yeah. HD, huge dick.
Right.
No, they had one of the episodes had a commercial someone didn't cut out. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was a New York City episode.
I haven't, but
I had to show my kids. It was like a portable thing that you put your portable CD player into, and it took 4 AA batteries, and it was like the speaker, these little shitty detachable speakers, and you could carry your CD booklet, had like room for 12 or 10 CDs or something like that. I was like, see, this is what it was in the 2000s. You'd be an asshole carrying around this like then $30 thing with these shitty speakers. This is what we did before we had AirPods.
Trying to make it work in your car.
Yes. Yeah. Having it not skip, putting it right in the right spot.
Yeah.
Did you use like a CD player, like a portable CD player in your car?
I did. And after I destroyed like 7 CDs, I decided that wasn't the way to go. I was spending more money like replacing CDs. So thankfully, that car in particular, the muffler fell off on the way to a concert, going back to radio for one, or podcast for a minute. So it fell off in the city of Novi, and I was going to Grand Rapids.
Oh.
So I did not stop. I drove all the way to Grand Rapids and back when I was living in the Wabonia area at the time. So for those outside of Michigan, that's roughly a 2.5-hour drive each way without a muffler.
Surprised you didn't get pulled over.
I don't think they cared at that point in time.
I had a girlfriend that had one of the first Sony ones that you could carry and put in your car, but it had this little base. So it would, the CD player, the Carmen, maybe, it would like float on this thing so it would absorb some of the shock. That was pretty cool back in the day. So anyway,
it's high tech.
Yeah, big time. So other than that, I watched The Curse, which is the new Nathan Fielder show with Emma Stone, and who else is in it? Basically, I don't know who else is in it. Some other people. One of the Safdie brothers from Uncut Gems. It's a show basically about the couple, Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone are this couple that are trying to get this HGTV show off the ground, like it's in the piloting stage and everything, and they keep running into these problems in the town. It's very reminiscent of a Chip or Joanna Gaines, the Magnolia whatever brand, that or that other show. It's like Down Home or some shit, where they basically, these couples, they set their show up in this neighborhood or in this town, like a small town USA, and they basically cookie cutter all these houses to be exactly the same, and the property values go sky high because these famous quote unquote designers are in there doing their thing, and it becomes a land rush to get all these houses. I'm only one episode into that, so I don't have a lot to talk about on that. So other than that, I started season 5 of Fargo. Have you watched Fargo in the past?
I got like halfway through the first season and then gave up.
That's the Billy Bob Thornton one, right?
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer as to why.
That one was okay, but I think 2 and 3 got a lot better. 4 was kind of out of the ordinary for the series, but 5 is back to South Dakota, North Dakota, in the Dakota area, whatever. It's been good so far. Other than that, when we're recording this, it's right after Black Friday, right after Thanksgiving, all the Black Friday sales and everything. Black Friday, I bought a cold brew coffee maker, quote unquote. You know, you put the beans or the grounds in, you put the water in, you set it down.
Sure.
It's compact. It's supposed to be this great thing. It was cheap. It was cheaper. It was like $25 instead of $35. Really excited to get it. Set the thing up, follow the instructions, put it on my countertop, leave it there all day, no problem. I'm going to let it steep overnight. I come back in the morning. There's this huge spill of coffee all over my countertop.
Oh, dude, I would have been pissed.
My kids were filling their waters for school or whatever. I'm like, who touched my coffee? Nobody. Who touched my coffee? This was not like this last night. It had been sitting out for, by the time I went to bed, it was at least 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I cleaned the thing up. It's supposed to be 24 ounces of cold brew concentrate. It was like 12 max. So I'm like, fuck, maybe I fucked something up, whatever. I'll try it again. Try it again today. Within like an hour, it's pissing coffee all over the place.
It's weird that it takes an hour to start pissing coffee. Like you would think it would.
Well, I think it's soaking all the grounds. And then what you do is you put the container, the reservoir on top of the carafe, and then that pushes a little spring up, and that's what releases the water or the coffee.
Okay.
But it's like leaking around the seam. It's this whole thing. Everybody in Amazon, well, not everybody. Some people on Amazon are like, oh yeah, it leaks. It leaked, maybe the second time. Some people, it took a year and a half, it started leaking. And the thing that really grinds my gears is when you go on there and they have the question section of Amazon, you can check it and everything. And someone will ask a question like, hey, mine leaks. Why does this leak? And someone responds, mine doesn't leak. I don't care if yours leaks or not. I'm looking for answers. I'm just going to send it back. It's not that big of a deal. But if you don't have anything wrong and someone asks a question, don't answer the fucking question. If you give a review 1 star and say it's the best thing, or if you say it's the worst thing and you give it 5 stars, if you do that, what is wrong with you? Please let us know. This is like an ongoing, this is going to be the focused mission, my mission going forward, is to find somebody that does it and why they do it. How about you? How was your fun Black Friday, Thanksgiving?
I sat around at home, quote unquote, working and watched the short film Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
I have seen this.
This is a good time because, one, if these people are being honest, which I kind of sincerely doubt they are, you get to watch a 20-year-old make out with a 13-year-old, which is a little cringe. And
a little.
Yeah. I do enjoy all zebraed out, like Zuba's head to toe guy complaining about punk rock and Madonna. I'm like, why are you so angry? What's your fucking problem, dude? Like, I didn't even care about the punk rock part. I was like, what did Madonna do to you? Madonna's fine. And I don't like her, but I don't have any reason to be like pissed off at her.
Sure. Is that the first time you'd seen it?
No, I've seen it before, but it's been fucking forever.
A while.
And it was nice to go back. And that had the little like short clip of the monster truck parking lot, which was, it only showed like 5 minutes of that. There's one kid that I swear to God has to be the like prototype of Eric Cartman to a T. Like pudgy kid, red coat, red hat with the yellow ring and the poof ball. I was like, if this wasn't where the idea of what Cartman looks like came from, that's just too fucking coincidental. And then it dabbled in Heavy Metal Parking Lot 2, which I don't know if there's a longer version of it. I haven't found it yet, if there is, but basically they go back in like 1990 whatever for a Marilyn Manson concert. I'm like, these guys have a really weird definition of heavy metal, because I'm not sure that I would consider Judas Priest heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that as a slight against Judas Priest. I'm just saying in the big scheme of heavy metal things, I don't think I'd put them up there. And then Marilyn Manson isn't exactly heavy metal either. He's kind of, what is he, industrial goth rock or something like that. He's not, I guess, depending on what album you play.
Sure.
So I watched that. On the better side of things, I watched the short documentary Bye Bye Barry that's on Amazon. That's about Barry Sanders. Have you gotten a chance to watch that yet?
I watched about the first half hour and I started it way too late. Like one of those things where it was probably 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch this whole thing. And I had to stop it so I'd go to bed. Yeah,
it's one of those documentaries like this doesn't really give me anything that I didn't already know. So that kind of sucks. But Barry Sanders here, local legend to say the least. It was cool to see some of those iconic and amazing place that he had remastered and put in HD, so they looked all clean and all that. For an hour and a half little mini doc or whatever, totally worth watching, especially if you, like me, like watching football documentaries when they come out. That's worth checking out. I did watch the first episode of In-Season Hard Knocks. What's his name? Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach.
Yeah.
I might be a serial killer, but I kind of like him as a coach. He's got this skinny Mike Ditka type vibe to him.
I watched that too, and all I could think of when he was on was, this guy is high as fuck.
Oh, that too.
Constantly.
That too. Yeah. But yeah, he you know what I mean? He's got the fucking like gold rimmed aviators all the time and this weird swagger about him. Like, this guy reminds me of Ditka, except obviously he didn't play football and looks like Ditka could still break him over his leg. But he's got that like attitude about him. So that was all right. The other thing that I fell into, so I got distracted from Insomniac from another questionable show, questionable in terms of how good and or bad it is. It's a show called Face Off, which is kind of like your generic competition show where they take 10-ish people and have them do something to compete against each other. And in this, they are doing practical effects. So they're doing like full prosthetics and like makeup and shit on people to make them either werewolves or zombies or a bunch of other bullshit that they made up. And it's really not that good, but I'm now a season into it, so I'm like, well, there's only 2 seasons on here. I might as well power through and see how the rest of this shit ends. So it's kind of, you know, if you think about like, if you said, write me a bad stereotype of who does prosthetic or like who does that kind of effects, these are the people that you would have. There's the dude with the mohawk who talks like this because he's so extreme and makes things oversized because, you know, I got to go all out, man. And then there's like the quiet nerdy.
Go big or you home, dude.
Yeah, there's like the quiet nerdy guy. And then there's like, I'm the hot chick who happens to like horror movies. So, you know, I'm the reason that you're going to tune in, which she doesn't do enough to really make that a reason to tune in. You know, it's got all that shit going or not going for it, you know, however you want to word that. But yeah, I fell into a season of that, and there's 1 season left on Netflix, so I'll probably power through that over the next week or so. Stay tuned if you insist on hearing an update about that. Past that, the other 2 things that I caught that were new, you mentioned this, I want to say some point in October, but I watched Old Dads the other day, the Bill Burr movie, and after what you said about it, and kind of what I thought with it when I said that, I'm not sure that he's found his niche in taking his comedy and making it fit to scripted, whether it's television or film in this case.
Yeah.
Exactly how I felt about it. It's not a bad movie per se. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't land in this. There's a few funny things. I really like when he trips the kid right at the beginning of the movie. That was pretty entertaining to me. I did not give a shit about any of the other characters in the movie other than Bill Burr. I know they're all his friends and that's why they're in there, but I'm not sure that I gave a shit about him as far as being in this movie if I was supposed to. But it looked fine. I didn't realize he directed it too. I knew he wrote it, but you know, if this is his first directorial debut, like I can see that I would think he probably has a better full-length film in him somewhere. This isn't it though for me. Then the other thing that I was more curious to see if you watched, that this I just watched last night, and I almost want to do an episode about it just because it gives us an excuse to use the Stallone voice for another 2 hours. But I watched the documentary Sly on Netflix, which is kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, except not nearly as endearing as the Arnold Schwarzenegger
You
one.
don't say.
Have you seen this yet?
No, and I'm kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of avoiding it. I'm not actively avoiding it. I'm just kind of not really interested because I feel, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, I feel like it's just going to be him blowing himself. I know
that is exactly what it is.
I feel like there's going to be some of the hardship of him when he was a kid and the issues that he dealt with and, you know, his parents or something. And the rest of it's going to be, I'm Sylvester Stallone. I'm awesome. And you aren't.
So I watched it because I had a family member tell me it was really good. And they compared it to the Arnold one because I guess that's what you have to compare it to. And they know I'm a big fan of Arnold. And they're like, "Do you like Stallone?" I'm like, "Well, you know, he's a guy."
I do a great impression of him.
Right. So for whatever reason, that convinced me to watch this documentary. And it was kind of one of those, like I had a shitty like sports weekend, like every team I like lost and every team I don't like won. So that I was, by Sunday afternoon, I was like, fuck sports. I need to watch something that's not this. And somehow that's where I landed. And that's exactly it. The first like 20 minutes or so is like, my father beat the shit out of me with a horse and, shit like that.
The whole horse?
Actually, yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
There's like 20 minutes of that. And then basically once he gets to Rocky, which is pretty early in this, he's like, so I'm so fucking great and I'm going to stroke myself off for the next hour of this fucking movie. And I'm going to have two... Correct me if I'm wrong, but when they did the Arnold one, didn't they have like quite a few people coming in and saying Arnold was great? He did this, he did that, and Arnold would kind of be peppered in there for whatever.
In this one, they had Sylvester Stallone's doctor, and they said, yes, we did remove 2 ribs.
They had one random dude who I think he has a podcast that's like about as successful as this podcast.
He's super successful on.
Right. He's up to 20 listeners. I had him, and they had like one other random guy, and then every now and then Arnold pops in, and he was like, Stallone was doing stuff at the same time as me. We kind of had a race between the two of us, and then Stallone would butt in and be like, yeah, he's a cobra, or some shit like that. So
it's supposed to be a franchise.
Yeah, he didn't spend nearly enough time on Cobra. They kept showing the poster Cobra. I'm like, talk about that piece of shit. Let's circle around to that. So
talk about Oscar.
I don't know. Talk about any number of the shit movies you made. Like he focuses like 10 minutes on Copland, which it's been a really, really long time since I've seen Copland. And he sells it as like his big dramatic break because he has some argument where he got Robert De Niro pissed off, which in my head, I'm like, I think all you did was piss off Robert De Niro. I don't think you got a real acting break out of him. I think you just pissed him off. But I haven't seen, I want to say that came out like in the early 90s, and I don't think I've seen it since like the mid 90s. I am really in no hurry to watch it. So if someone wants to torture us and make us watch Copland, you can let us know. But
don't
even put it out there.
Don't even plant that seed. I don't want to watch Copland.
All right. So there we go. Copland is verboten for the time being.
Copland in February. Please no.
No.
All right.
But yeah, that was pretty much all I had this week. So nothing too crazy. You have anything else you want to touch on before we go into our break?
No, we watched so much stuff.
We did do a lot. I think we might have been compensating. So
yeah, we did a nice long break. We had a lot of stuff to watch. And I watched even more stuff. Fell back on the Ripley's Believe It or Not bandwagon.
Is that show still on, or are you just going back to old ones?
No, I watched the 80s, like the early 80s ones. And it's funny, I was thinking about it today when I was watching it today, coincidentally. That show and a show like Unsolved Mysteries, where they have that iconic spooky kind of music, even though like Unsolved Mysteries is probably supposed to be kind of spooky, the music for it, but Ripley's Believe It or Not, I feel like isn't necessarily supposed to be spooky. When I hear the music for those two shows, it instantly gives me like the hair on end, heebie-jeebie kind of feeling. So, and I think, having that real crummy 80s quality to it, Jack Palance scared the shit out of me forever because of Ripley's Believe It or Not as a kid. Had to throw that in there. Because I know there's probably people that listen that have that same kind of reaction. I think it's kind of universal for Unsolved Mysteries to have that weird.
I was going to say, I would think Unsolved Mysteries is probably more like known for that.
Yeah.
When I think of Ripley's Believe It or Not, I tend to think of Superman. Because didn't Dean Cain host it the second time around?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you said Superman, I'm like, Christopher Reeve?
Sure.
Maybe. But that's all I got.
They brought back Unsolved Mysteries too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did on Netflix.
Did they make it more like fictitious? I don't know. I wonder now, like all that unsolved mystery shit, like are they actually true stories? I never took the time to like find out, but now that they brought it back.
I feel like now there's so much like true crime everywhere that was kind of like true crime before true crime was true crime. Like now we have, Dateline is now just all true crime. 2020 used to be like some kind of, sometimes they have investigative stuff. Now that's just true crime. There's all these true crime podcasts, the ID channel. That's all that is, Court TV. A lot of that's true. I think you're just so inundated now. I don't know if a show like that could take off.
That, or you could go down the rabbit hole of true crime on YouTube, and God knows how true half of that shit is. But like, I'm not going to act like I haven't done it with some things.
Of course. That's what YouTube's good for.
Yeah. Wasting time.
That's right.
Anyway, I think that's it. We've wasted enough time on that. So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk about our topic.
If you're in the Detroit area, save the date for Thursday, December 21st at Batch Brewing Company for the next installment of Franks and Steins. Located at 1400 Porter Street, you can have a Frank, fill your stein with select beers for $11, and best of all, come watch Silent Night, Deadly Night with us for free. The movie starts promptly at 7 p.m. Don't be naughty, and we'll see you at Batch.
Okay, we're back. The dog's pacing around the kitchen, and we're going to talk about the 1980. I'm not going to go as far as to call this a classic. The 1980 film, The Children. So, Sean, normally we start with a third-party review. Seeing as this movie is now wedged into the middle of our Christmas marathon here,
Yeah,
I feel like we owe me a bit of an explanation as to why the fuck this movie is in here. The short version is we were duped.
I was duped!
Hence the question of the week, if you saw that. So, Sean, why don't we start with what the
premise.
the lead in
sold?
as to what we were told, and then we'll come back around to what this movie's actually about.
Yeah, so basically during our Halloween kind of season, right, there was a whole bunch of stuff on Peacock, and I was looking through Peacock, and they had a bunch of different horror movies, and this title comes up, and it's called The Children from 1980. And here's the description that Peacock gives us. It says, a Christmas vacation turns deadly after gas leaking from a nuclear power plant turns children into zombies who burn anyone they touch. So I saw the little preview on Peacock, and it looked pretty interesting. This kid gave this lady a hug, and she basically got radiation burns all over. And I was like, that looks amazing. And it's a Christmas movie because it says a Christmas vacation. And I'm thinking it's kids in a car or something, right? Like not a school, what it actually ends up being, a school bus. So yeah, I mean, thanks a lot, Peacock. You really fucked us over. So we put this movie in the middle. It's the second movie of our Christmas Jubilee. And we were duped. This has nothing to do with Christmas. So John and I conversed over the weekend, and I said, are we still going to talk about this movie?
I think I sent you a message on Friday when I was watching it. Like, if this is a Christmas movie, this is the least Christmassy Christmas that I've ever seen in Christmas history. And then you watched it a day or two later, and we're like, really?
Are we going to talk about this? Because it doesn't fit.
Well, you know what? We've already watched it, so we're going to move on. So let's go fucking dive right into this pile of shit and see what happens.
Head first.
So,
yes.
So our third-party review is anonymous. This is 1.5 stars out of 5. And this random person says, pretty bold story of killer zombie children taking down adults with hugs of death. Typical trauma movie, but lots of fun, surprisingly well done, despite its obvious lack of a budget. Do you know why this says in here typical trauma movie? Because this is not a trauma movie.
No, it's not, but I guess maybe the effects, the smoke, the toxic waste kind of thing motif.
Actually, no.
Okay.
The reason why it says that is, and I found this kind of I didn't do a lot of research for this episode. For the little research that I did do and looking for like cover art and stuff, this movie, for some fucking reason on VHS, had a lead in from Lloyd Kaufman, and it said there was a trauma sticker put on the box. So it gave the impression of it being a trauma movie, even though it is definitely not.
Well, that explains that.
What's this movie actually about, Sean?
All right, so if we go off the plot and the storyline of IMDb, I'm going to read them both because neither of them really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they make sense, but they're short. So a nuclear plant leak turns a busload of children into murderous atomic zombies with black fingernails. And if we go, that's true. If we go down to the storyline,
I don't know if I would use the word atomic in there, but okay.
Well, I think we have a couple nits to pick, and I think it's a conversation that we should have. But Charmady Smith on IMDb writes, Sheriff Billy investigates when a busload children. This is exactly what it says. Okay. Sheriff Billy investigates when a busload children from the quiet town of Ravensback disappear. He soon discovers a chemical leak nuclear plant turned them into lethal huggers, and now they are killing residents in the town. Now it is up to him and another resident named John,
no relation,
parenthesis, whose daughter is one of the missing children, close parenthesis, to stop them.
Sure.
I put movies on Plex. Okay, I have movies on Plex. I've noticed that sometimes these storylines show up in the Plex like description. I don't know if this one did. I was almost half expecting the Peacock description to be the storyline and say like the Christmas part.
Yeah.
John, we had this discussion on text when we were talking about our question of the week. We converse, believe it or not, we converse about the question of the week before it goes up. It's not just something that gets thrown up there that we ask Chat GPT to write for us. Correct. My question to you was something like, oh, what's the most unusual zombie? What's your favorite kind of like different zombie or whatever? And then you said, are they zombies?
So pause that for a second. while you were reading the storyline, you know how they put their keywords about this movie? I think it's funny that this movie that has had multiple things now tell us that there's zombies and nuclear waste and all this other shit. The first three phrases they have to describe this movie is female nudity, bikini, female topless nudity, which those things are all there, but they're certainly not the like main thing in this movie. But I did make a note saying that this movie's awfully horny for a movie that hasn't had a whole lot of shit going on with it.
And I'm really horny for a movie with a lot of kids in it.
Yeah, that too. Question again. So are these zombies? Is that what the question was?
Yeah. You don't seem to think they're zombies.
I don't think they're zombies because one, when they, do I want to say this without getting into what these kids do?
Doesn't matter.
No. So the short version of what these kids do, because I'm going to put it, and we can go into this in more detail. Of
Yeah,
course.
we will.
Essentially, these kids are, there's these two lazy fuckos at the nuclear power plant. They want to knock off for lunch, and one dude's like, hey, we should go check this. And he's like, fuck that. What are we going to do? Kill a bunch of kids? And they leave. Kids are driving home in the back of a school bus singing the most annoying fucking songs, and the bus driver's totally got a raging boner for it. He drives through this fart cloud, and next thing you know, these kids are whatever the fuck they are. They're calling them zombies in this movie. I'm not sure I would call them zombies for a couple of reasons. One, the people that they kill or that they hug to death or whatever the fuck happens to them, they melt, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come back. So there's not like a spread of it's not, zombies, in my opinion, they have to be dead and they have to spread their zombieism. Like all the other shit, like if they run or slower, let's not have that argument.
Is that the scientific term, zombieism?
Sure. We can go with that. So these kids aren't, I'm not even 100% sure they're dead. I mean, they're obviously fucked up, but I'm not sure they imply that they died. They just imply that they have, stopped off at the local Hot Topic, gotten some My Chem shirts, painted their nails black and put some eye smear on. And they're going around hugging people, and they turn the smoke machine on with the green fart smoke, and they melt, and they use the same Halloween mask over and over again to show hey, this fucker's melted.
Look at this guy's melted face.
But those people never get back up.
That's true.
Right. They never get back up. They never go after and now have their own, My Chemical Romance cover band where they're trying to hug people. None of that shit happens. So I don't think you could call them mutants. You could call them, dipshits. You could call them all kinds of things. I don't know that they necessarily fall in the what I would consider a zombie just because they don't spread their disease other than just killing motherfuckers.
You make a good point.
Just saying.
Yeah, I still think they're zombies. I mean, everything that we've read says they're zombies. They get shot. These kids get shot, which is the first time it happens later in the movie, but the first time a child, these are children. They're not adults that are 37 that look like they're 12.
They're elementary school kids.
Yeah, there's one kid that's older, probably maybe early high school or mid high school or something. But when the first kid gets shot and she falls down and kind of gets back, I laughed. It was such a shock and such a surprise that they would shoot a kid and the kid would be a zombie. And the kid has a squib. I mean, there's a burn hole on her clothes, which I'm sure, came from the inside out. But I was like, holy shit, that's hilarious that you would shoot a kid.
I think it's funnier when he does the shooting range later in the movie when the kids are showing up at home and he just opens the window with a shotgun and starts playing duck hunt with these fucking kids. God, we're all over the place already. But then he produces a samurai sword out of fucking nowhere and small. So let's go
November
back here.
Spilled into our Christmas, and our Christmas spilled into our crummy movie March. It's like a smorgasbord, like a big fucking cornucopia.
Let's be real here. Crummy Movie March spills into all 12 months on the calendar at least once. It's bound to happen.
It should.
It
should. Crummy Movie March
and it
should
will.
Be a international holiday, global.
I mean, we need to trademark it before March. But so let's go back. So like we said, you have the fart cloud, the bus, and all that. We're introduced to this town. This town has a very small town feel to it, at least, and that's the impression that I got. The cops that are there, everyone knows them on a first name basis. Again, we call him Sheriff Billy. The cops that are there seem to know all the residents of the town on a first name basis and their kids. And they wander in and out of backyards and stuff. We mentioned this movie is extremely horny. In the first, 5-10 minutes of this movie after fart cloud radiation, cop just wanders back in where this chick is in a bikini, not near a pool, and starts checking her out before he's like, hey, where's your kid?
And to emphasize how small this Ravensback, how small this small town is, the movie says a busload of children. They're all the kids from Ravensback. There are
like 5 kids.
Literally 6 kids in the bus.
Yeah.
6 kids in the entire bus. The bus pulls through the fart cloud. The cop sees the bus abandoned on the just parked across the road, basically blocking the entire road. Nobody else has driven by this thing. Nobody else drives by it the entire time. And they're more concerned that the bus driver has taken the kids to go do something more than that the bus driver has done something to these kids. Like, oh, the bus driver, he's wacky, he's wackadoo. He likes to take the kids to the cemetery to show them the gravestones. Not that he's like diddling the kids, but more that it's how quaint, 1980 was, right?
Yeah, well, I guess we can go with that. Quaint is a word. Not only that, like after Sheriff Billy leaves the first house with the girl in the bikini, he then in short order proceeds to the next house where there is like, I swear this house has to be like designed off of like the low budget Playboy mansion, because there's just a girl sitting there topless with this like super buffed out version of Sonny Bono, just like doing like deadlift curls next to the pool. And apparently they just have like I thought it was an ashtray, but it's like a candy jar full of oregano that they're smoking.
Oh, is that what that was? I thought it was actually ashes, because the cop comes up, the lady, nice rack, by the way, and the dude pumping the iron, he comes over and he takes it was like an apple, right? I thought it was an ashtray and he dumps it out. And I was like, who cares that he dumps their ashes in the pool? Like, who gives a shit? But
so I think it's implied that it's weed because they light a joint and, yeah, but it looks like oregano. Or maybe ashes. It doesn't look like weed that he throws in the pool. But apparently smoking is legal in this town. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe in this one town.
So yeah, there's a lot of like brief by 1980 standards nudity in this movie in the first, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it after that. So
then it's all zombies all the time.
Zombies. That's what we'll call them. We'll call them zombies.
I like that the Coach Billy, that Officer Billy, Sheriff Billy, goes into the convenience store, the local convenience store. The 2 guys are trying to sell like dead chickens or something.
Yeah.
And the sheriff tells, hey, the school bus, do you know what happened to the driver, Fred or whatever the driver's name is? And I think that's the lady's husband, like the store runner's husband, or she knows him well. I mean, it's a small town. And the sheriff proceeds to tell her that the bus, that whoever, Fred, left the motor running and everybody's disappeared. And the thing that the lady picks out from that, not that the kids are gone, not that they've been missing for like an hour at this point. Her quote is, that ain't like Fred to leave the motor running. It's not, it's like Fred to park the bus across the street, like across the road. It's like Fred to take the kids unwarranted and without any permission from the parents. But it's not like him to leave the motor running. That's just, something's off about that.
It's wasteful. So we do find Fred in the cemetery, as we mentioned, and we are greeted by Fred, his dead, sort of melted, fart body corpse, mixed with a surprising like turn of the soundtrack as we go right into Norman Bates and Psycho. I was like, so when the fuck did that happen? Are we at the God, I can't think of that hotel's name now.
Bates?
Yeah.
Bates Motel.
There you go. Thank you. I'm a moron. So that's our first questionable soundtrack choice in this movie. I was like, that's pretty ballsy of them just to kind of rip off one of the most well-known cinematic scores in movie history.
Do you know who did the score of this movie?
Yes, I'm getting to that.
Okay, sorry.
Fast forward to, we'll say 17 minutes and 47 seconds later. All of a sudden, we're transported to Camp Crystal Lake, and here comes Jason's fucking sound out of nowhere. And yeah, what the fuck? So that's why I was saying, was it Manfredini or whatever? Is it who did it?
Yep.
So ballsy move to go ahead and just not even like try to hide the fact that you didn't change a note. This is the note for note. We're just going to take these other cinematic scores and put them in this movie. This movie came out the same year as the original Friday the 13th. So and I looked it up right before we got started just to kind of compare to see maybe he put this in this movie first and they were like, well, that didn't fucking sell, so go ahead and use it for Friday
Nobody
the 13th.
Ever will see this movie. Just use it again. Who cares?
Other way around, Friday the 13th was out a couple months earlier, but I'm sure they were just at like, who the fuck cares? Just, it has to have some sound. And apparently Manfredini was like,
It has to have some sound.
I don't want to write another sound. Just fucking do this again. Yeah, you get the Friday the 13th original score for about the second half of this movie. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, give or take.
Did that throw you off too, or was that just me?
I'm not as familiar with Friday the 13th and all this, the actual music besides the iconic Jason theme, I guess. So I honestly didn't really notice, to be perfectly honest with you.
We've done 3 fucking Friday the 13th
I'm
movies
sorry.
already. And you know
Got
what?
a lot of shit going on in this head.
That's true.
The kids they think they're kidnapped. That's what or something. They're missing. And the deputy, when he's done, playing with his girlfriend, they decide they're going to blockade the street in and out of Ravensback. And they recruit the 2 dudes that had the dead chickens that were trying to poach the chickens or whatever to be deputies. And there's this scene that really confused the shit out of me. Confused me more than just about anything else in this movie. They have the road blocked off. The girlfriend's there, whatever the girlfriend leaves, and the 2 deputized citizens give the real deputy a hard time about it. And this car pulls up, and it wants to come into the town. It's like a Pontiac, like a big boat-style car, a 1980s car. And it pulls up, and the driver pulls up so the person in the back, it's supposed to be like a limo or an expensive fancy car. And the guy in the back wants in the town, and they don't want to let him in. Do you know who he calls and has the police officer talk to? Do you understand that whole thing?
Not at the moment. So it really didn't stick with me, clearly. I know the scene you're talking about, but I think I, like you, was confused.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of it, I was like,
oh,
what
yeah.
the fuck was that? Whatever.
What was that supposed to? So he has like a car phone, and he gives it to the cop to talk to this person. The person that he calls is Dinah Shore. Dinah Shore in the 80s she was involved with Burt Reynolds and a bunch of people. And I think ultimately, I don't want to talk out of school. I don't want to talk about her personal life because I really don't know enough about it. But why do they call Dinah Shore to drive into Ravensback? I had to look, like, does Dinah Shore have producing credits or something that they would name drop her in this? It's like totally non sequitur. No reason this is in the movie. It just totally threw me for a loop. Like, what? What does this have to do? It doesn't really have anything. Spoiler alert. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. They move on.
Nothing
just
has
as quickly as
anything
it
to do
came.
with fucking anything in this movie.
Well, that's not true. Maybe
Well,
it is. I don't know.
We kind of skipped over, aside from the 2 like dipshit deputies that are at the road, they also deputize another random dude. I think they just gave him, like, deputize him because he already had a gun. His kid he's almost like the final girl of the movie, although he gets got at the end of it. Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Like, these characters suck. Like, honestly, these characters suck. Like, Sheriff Billy fucking sucks. What's the fucking point of this movie other than for your repeated hugs of death with, like, there's just not enough of it, and these kids don't do shit. And then we finally hit the point where, as I mentioned, Sheriff Billy or whatever gets his ass knocked out by a plant, comes to, and again, produces a fucking katana out of nowhere and just starts cutting off kids' hands. And that's how we find out that, okay, well, now they're dead because they don't have hands.
Yeah, it's like the zombies can be taken out. We've had it where a blow to the head or like a gun, a bullet to the brain, destroy the brain. That's generally the MO to get rid of zombies. With these zombies, the way that you kill them is you chop off their hands. And the telltale sign that these kids are the zombie is that they have black fingernails. And there's a scene where they find one of the girls. Like, none of these kids, these zombies, will stick around if they're outnumbered. If there are 2 adults and there's one of them, they'll kind of figure that out and they'll leave. But they
much like regular kids.
Yes, of course. Yeah. They don't want to be around adults. So
no,
they get the one girl in the police car. She's catatonic. She's not reacting. And her fingernails are regular color. And then when the cop is alone with her in the car, her fingernails turn black. And then that means she can do the hug of doom. But it's just a weird thing. Cutting the hands off is what... They do this great effect when they cut the hands off. They'll show like a pair of hands that are clearly just mounted underneath a piece of plywood with carpet. The hands are just sitting there. There's a scene near the end of the movie where some of the zombies get kind of hacked up and there's just like these random body parts laying around these random body parts of the rest of the kid. The special effects are they're amazing. The green gas, the melting paper mache mask that everybody has as they melt away. Everybody has the same expression. This is low budget filmmaking at its finest. It's a good example of doing something with a little. They don't do a lot with a little. They just do a little something with quite a little bit.
I mean, it's a good example of like, well, it's technically a functional movie.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
So yeah, this also I guess the other main point that I want to bring up is this not the weirdest fucking childbirthing scene that you've ever seen in your life?
It's the whole pregnancy. So the guy who gets deputized, his wife is pregnant.
I should take a step back.
Yes.
Did you realize she was pregnant before she started giving birth to a child? Okay,
I did, and I wondered if you were going to pick that up because it's really weird. Like basically, it looks like they legitimately stuck a t-shirt full of dirty laundry on her and she holds it, and it moves around, and it's really liquid, and the fact that it can be on her side or it can be on her ass, or they move it around and she's holding it in front of her at certain times. Really weird. It's the weirdest pregnancy effect in recent memory for me.
Well, it's the weirdest birthing scene because when like I said, I did watch this movie sober, so I can't even blame substances for me missing this. I would like to, but I can't. We're wrapping up the movie, or we think we're wrapping up the movie, and Deputy Dipshit with a shotgun is moderately upset that his one kid is dead, but apparently he's going to have a childbirth now. They go run upstairs, and she's like, oh, go get a knife and sterilize it or something. Like, fuck going to the hospital. Just
boil some water.
So they're doing this birthing scene while they're doing this like little like panning homage of all the dead kids that are around from this movie. So like 6 or 7 dead kids. I think there's like 7 or 8 of them by the time we get to the end of this.
And there is this when you say birthing scene, they don't even show the people. It's just these panning shots of these different environments and scenes from throughout the movie. And they lost 2
probably
kids.
For the better.
Because one of the kids is a Zambi, and the other kid gets burnt via hug of doom from some other kid. So it's like they've lost 2 kids. They got a new one coming,
so who cares?
Yeah, they lost 2 kids in the last 6 hours. No biggie.
Right. Perfectly fine time to birth another one. Thankfully, we don't have to actually watch the birthing. Like, I was actually kind of like, are they going to show this? Like, I kind of want to see how they attempt to pull that off, because if her pregnancy effect is any indicator, it should be just chef's kiss.
They do it like Extra.
Pretty much. Extra was a little goopier.
Oh, I mean, it would have been hilarious if they did it like Extra, but yeah, they don't show it at all.
And then we get to the big like cliffhanger because they knew this movie was going to demand a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Where
100%.
They have a kid breastfeeding, and the kid has little Marilyn Manson nails. So he's little baby goth ready to go to Hot Topic and hug people and, fuck them up, apparently.
Well, it's like they do this. It's supposed to be like a twist. They show the kid and the dad, the deputy dad, whatever. By the way, no known actors in this movie. There are a few people that you might recognize, but it's not even worth like bringing their names up because that's how small they are either in the movie or just like they don't really have much of a huge film career or anything. But they go through this whole birthing thing, and the dad's watching lovingly as the baby's like breastfeeding, and then you see the nails, and his eyes open real big, and he makes his face, and then they show the baby's nails, and then the movie fades out. I can appreciate that the baby wasn't some green nuclear gas baby or anything. I can appreciate that they went the real simple route. The way that they draw it out, the last like 10 minutes of this movie, this is another one.
I kept expecting him to kill the baby.
Yeah, that too. And it's another one of those movies where it's an hour and 33 minutes. And I looked, and by the time like most of the action is over, there's a good 15 minutes left of the movie. And I just keep thinking to myself, what are they going to do to fill out this last, let's say 5 minutes is going to be credits. What are they going to do for the last 10 minutes? And all they do are just show these like filler shots and then the baby and then a fade to black. It's like, okay. The twist was super worth waiting for. I could have turned it off once all the kids that were taken care of, and that would have been just as good.
Oh no, you need that twist ending. Without it, it's just,
I hear that's where M. Night Shyamalan got a lot of his inspiration from, was this movie.
This is essentially the same movie as The Sixth Sense, like shot for shot. So if you like The Sixth Sense, buckle up and watch this movie.
I'm not going to say that, but okay.
You got anything else you want to add before we start kind of wrapping on this fart cloud of a movie?
No, I'm just so disappointed with Peacock because they duped us hardcore. I'm expecting a Christmas movie or have something to do with Christmas break or a station wagon full of kids that are on Christmas break and they hug people and destroy them.
A fucking Santa hat. Anything.
Something. Give me a leaf, a mistletoe.
Right.
Just to mention, if you are very interested, even if you're not very interested, I'm going to tell you anyways, you can watch this ad-supported on Peacock. You can watch it on Fubo. You can stream it for free on Tubi, Night Flight, which I guess you have to have a subscription for that, and Plex.
Well, there you go. You could also buy it on Amazon Prime if you wanted to.
$1.99 HD, baby. Totally worth it.
Do you want to lead off on the hot dog scale on this one, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, let's just get it over with. I think that they tried to do a lot with a little. I think they did a little with a little. It's an interesting concept. I do think it's an interesting twist on a zombie, even if you don't think it's a zombie. I think it's interesting that they, number one, they're kids. They're not, they're all kids. There's not any adult zombies. And instead of destroying the brain, they got to remove the hands. I think that's a kind of a cool idea, but it has a lot of potential, but it ultimately just ends up being a little boring. I think the twist at the end comes up way too late. Like I said, it takes too long to get there. You got 20 minutes left in the movie and you're like, how are they going to finish this off? And it doesn't pay off. It's kind of disappointing more. I got to give this 4 pizza-faced victims out of 11 hot dogs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this movie is a shining example of a movie that would not happen now. And by that, I mean, this movie got a theatrical release. It got a, physical media release. It made money some fucking how. And if this movie was released now, like, you'd be lucky if you just ended up on Tubi, like, with the dregs of some of that stuff. So I don't know about lucky. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on Tubi, but it is the redeeming qualities that it has are kind of few and far between. There's really not enough to kind of hold your interest. Again, a major plot point at the end is that one of the final characters in this is pregnant, and I didn't even fucking realize it until she was birthing. I can't blame anything on that other than my own dumbass apparently not paying enough attention to whatever sign might or might not have been there. But again, you get to see Sheriff Billy Badass shooting kids. You get to see a random katana. There's some things that are so fucking ludicrous in this movie that, that's a little bit of a redeeming quality. It's kind of funny when these kids start attacking the adults at some point, like the first couple times. But these kids go or these zombies or whatever we're calling, these kids go hot ass mess like so quick and so hard for the first 15 minutes that you know what they are. And then they just kind of drift into staggering around with their goth fingernails that it doesn't really pay off. And I'm still pissed off that we were duped into thinking that there was some kind of Christmas nuclear fart cloud going on, and there's not. So
just a regular fart cloud.
Yeah. I'm giving this 3 disappointing fart cloud topping hot dogs out of 10 much better hot dogs that don't suck ass.
Smell like farts.
Yeah. So anything else you want to tack on here since I'm clearly so thrilled about the children?
No, I think I've said enough.
Said enough? Okay.
Enough said.
So, fair enough. Our question of the week. Let's go ahead and pull that up, see if anyone got a little last minute note in there, which they didn't. Hey, there's Beavis and Butthead. We like that. Go watch Beavis and Butthead. That's a way better movie about kids than this was. Question of the week was when was the last time you were duped? Tell us about it. Our friends over at Dissect That Film, who for the month are Dissect That Turkey, and I kind of hope you guys just change the name to Dissect That Turkey because it's a great name, said quite right up front, I swear every time I buy a car, I get duped somehow with repairs I get done. So a couple of months ago, okay? There is another reply here, but for some reason, Twitter won't let me see it. It gives me the option to show it, and then it just disappears. So fuck you, random replier, whoever you are. You get nothing. Then over on good old Instagram that hasn't changed their name yet, Jordana over at Pretty Killer Podcast, make sure to check her out. You can follow her all over the place and check out her show as well. Said that when I was duped into being an adult was when she was duped last. So I don't know when that was, but adulthood sucks.
It's at least been a while.
More recent than when we had to watch this movie.
Right.
And then Scott over at You Run Podcast, he responded that he was led to believe that working hard made you rich. Something I still convince myself every day is true.
Nah.
No, hard work does not make you rich. Only fan accounts make you rich. Or selling pictures of your feet, I'm told. That also can make you rich.
Really?
Yes. So, Sean.
Why are we doing this? I should be selling pictures of my feet.
You should. I'm not stopping.
Take pictures of my feet smushing food.
You have better camera than I do.
It's true. Do I have better feet than you do, though? That's the real question.
Well, if you have the camera, it doesn't have to be your fucking feet. Now, does it?
I would only get satisfaction if they're my feet.
I don't really want to see your fucking feet.
Too late.
Sean, do you have a story of being duped outside of this movie?
Not anything recent, but I was thinking more along the lines of, the biggest dupe that I can think of, lately. And I think the biggest dupe that I can think of that has happened, not lately, but the biggest one I can think of, again, I'm totally rewriting your question. Have you ever heard of the game Spore?
No.
So Will Wright.
Wait, maybe.
Will Wright is the guy that, he didn't invent, but he's like the guy who was the designer of SimCity and like all that shit, right? So his last game that he put out, his last game with Maxis was Spore. And Spore was advertised as this game where you would take a creature and evolve it throughout its lifespan, and it would become multiple versions of this organism, and you would eventually move into this like real-time strategy game with the Spore.
Kind of like Echo the Dolphin?
Yeah, nothing like that, actually. So you would start as a single-celled organism, and you could like evolve this thing, and people had fun with the creature creator and would have it where like a bunch of penises were coming off the thing's head or, whatever. And I waited and I got the game, and I got it the day it came out. I remember going to Target and getting it. I was an adult. I don't think I took the day off work, but I was an adult. I was excited to get it. Got the game. Game fucking sucked. It was like the character creator part of it, the evolving the character was the best part. And once you were done with that, which was about 15 minutes into the game, it was just boring. That's the only thing. And that was free. Like you could make your character for free with the character creator. Biggest dupe. Super, super disappointed. No Man's Sky. A lot of my dupes are around video games. No Man's Sky was like, now all these universes and planets, you can visit them and they're all new. And if you're the first person that visits the planet, then you get to name it. And it's like everybody's working together. It's interconnected, but there's no multiplayer. Go figure. All the planets, all the millions of computer generated planets, empty. Nothing on them. Kind of like Starfield. Starfield's kind of a bit of a disappointment, but I didn't get too hyped about that, so I wasn't super disappointed. I've just learned it's much easier to not get duped if you don't get excited about anything.
I'm looking at the images for this game, and it looks like a bunch of cast-offs from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, Spore?
Yeah.
I think Spore, they actually eventually turned the game into Dark Spore, and that was actually like a pretty decently regarded game. I wonder what came out first. Well, Spore or Monsters, Inc. Spore, 2000. Okay, definitely Monsters, Inc. was first.
Yeah, I would think so.
2001. Okay. I don't see how it has such good ratings. I think it eventually got a little bit better, but man, at the time, what a fucking disappointment that game was.
Was
How
this
about
a
you,
platform
John?
game, or was this a PC game?
PC.
PC?
Yeah.
I don't really have a good answer, so I'm going to say I was duped recently because I was told that Halloween ends, and it does not, in fact, end. There is more Halloween coming. That's the best I can do. I don't think we're going to get more Corey Cunningham, for better or worse, but I was duped. I thought Halloween ends. I saw that movie. We did an episode about it. It says Halloween ends right in the fucking title. You know what it doesn't do? Doesn't end.
What a bunch of bullshit.
It is.
Life is just bullshit. It's a big fucking joke.
It pretty much is, complete with, goth hugs and all that other shit.
Oh, boy. What a downer.
Yeah, boy. I think next week we'll be back with an actual movie that's about Christmas. And I know we'll be back next week with an actual movie that's about Christmas. Maybe we'll do another movie that maybe we'll tack I don't know what the fuck we're going to do, but there is one more coming that has some kind of Santa bullshit in it. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, go ahead and follow us on all the social networks where you can answer the question of the week, whether it's worded well or not, or whether it's stupid or what the fuck ever.
Or
just give us
well.
something to talk about. Or read well. I read poorly. We're at Dewey Podmonster on all the social networks. I tend to do a little bit better typing out responses than reading them. Of course, you can find all our old episodes on our website at crap.town or wherever you get your podcasts. And we would love it if you would check out our YouTube channel as well, which has, some stuff on it. Sean, where can people find you?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want your question to answer of the question week words, follow us things social media. Other than that, if you want to follow my Michigan craft beer adventures, you can find me at youtube.drafttherapy.com, or you can follow me on social networks. I don't post there, but you could follow me. That might make you feel better. It might make me feel better. I don't know. You can find me at Draft Therapy.
Bingo bango. Merry fucking Christmas, you goddamn zombies.
Hey John, when's the last time you were duped into wiping your ass?